Hey everyone, my guest today is Chad Peace. Chad is the legal strategist for the Independent Voter Project, where he's challenged restrictive primary systems and advocated for reforms that bring more choices to the table. He recently joined ABC News to discuss a new Gallup poll showing a record number of young voters are choosing to identify as independent. Beyond his work with the Independent Voter Project, Chad is founder and president of IVC Media LLC, the nonpartisan digital media firm behind award-winning voter education campaigns, record-breaking third-party fundraising, and creative digital strategies that break through partisan gridlock. He's managed major initiatives supporting open primaries and reaching unconventionally engaged voters nationwide. Welcome to the show, Chad. I want to thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Would you be able to tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
Well, I'm a father of a 3 and a 4-year-old.
Okay.
Grew up in a family where my dad's side of the family was, pretty defined themselves as Democrats, and the right side of my mom's side of the family to define themselves as Republicans. I kind of vowed to stay out of politics, but got the bug in my early 20s or so, like a lot of folks, and then I had the opportunity to work on California's nonpartisan primary initiative, which converted California as unique. Well, Washington and Alaska also have nonpartisan primaries, but it's one of only 3 states that have a nonpartisan selection process for the candidates rather than partisan primaries. So at the time, I guess I really didn't understand the revolutionary nature of what we were doing. I was kind of like, well, this is interesting. This is a good initiative. And I was tasked with communicating to independent voters that this was going to be on the ballot.
Yeah.
Skip forward a couple of years, I started putting it within context. I was just finishing up law school and looking at it through the lens of voter rights, and realizing that maybe there's a connection between the dissatisfaction and the that we see in government and the hyper-partisanship. And I whether I'm sitting down with people that think of themselves as liberal or conservative or whatever, like I feel like most people just in normal life don't define themselves by that, and 2, just kind of have the same common grievances, right? And it's like, so if most of us are feeling this way, why do these representatives on both sides seem to be talking about stuff that like none of us really care about? And or it's like we may care about it, but it's like, talk to me like a normal person. And you look at the way our election process is designed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are the incentive process? All right. So if you take a traditional state like New Jersey, where we filed a lawsuit, the first stage before the general election, right? Candidates, how do they get on the ballot in the general election? Well, they first run in a party primary election.
Mm-hmm.
And what that means is only voters from that party can vote on the nominee.
Yeah.
Right. So our legal principle is that this is an important stage of the public election process. Taxpayers are funding it. Our elected officials are administering it. But if I don't join a party, I'm not allowed to vote. It sounds like a violation of my right of association, right? So that's our legal principle, but that's how it's conducted in most places, right? And then you combine that with how many people actually vote in these primaries, right?
Right.
It usually ranges from low states like New Jersey can be around 10%, and then some states maybe as high as 50. But you just crunch the numbers and you realize it really only takes like 2% of the electorate to win that primary. And then some folks who've been paying attention more recently, we had this big debate over gerrymandering, and it wasn't none of the solutions were, let's get rid of gerrymandering. It was the Republicans decided, well, we're going to do it in our states that we can control. And that what it means is we're going to draw the districts in such a way that make the general elections like meaningless, right?
Yeah.
create, and then the Democrats do the exact same thing, right? And
Hmm.
so, and then both of them tell their voters, we're doing this because they're the bad ones, and then and we just have to, right? So it's a right self
Yeah.
fulfilling prophecy that who gets left out,
Yeah.
voters, right? So that's why we focus on things like let's change the incentives of the process. Let's get rid of this, first stage that divides the electorate and serves a private interest. We're not anti-party. We're not anti, doesn't mean you can't be a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't mean you can't have a party. It doesn't do all these things, but the public election process and the incentive shouldn't give partisan voters an advantage over everyone else, which right now it's not just an advantage, it's frankly a monopoly.
Yeah. Yes. So here in Iowa, we do the caucus, and I have voted both ways, but like you said, you for the primaries, you have to be registered
Mm-hmm.
a certain way. And so I did my first caucus as like a captain and tried to recruit people to come. And not only is it only a small portion of the people that came, but it's a lot of retired people, and I'm not trying to be offensive to them, but I will say me, like myself and the small group of like maybe 4 people that I could get to come to caucus were in our 30s, and we were the only ones in our 30s, and there was no one there younger than my friend that's like 2 years younger than me, 34, you know? So, yeah, it's not a very fair representation of the people who will actually be voting in the general elections. Now that's on everyone else for not participating in the caucus or the primary. But the other thing about Iowa is we're split into 4 districts, and it's just an even, a plus sign. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
someone wanted to gerrymander, they would make a district right in the middle around the Capitol, and you could
Yeah,
get another Democrat seat.
right.
But now with California, can you explain how they do it a little bit more? Because I was just reading about how something to do with Eric Swalwell dropping out of the gubernatorial race actually benefited the Democrats more, and I really didn't understand it. It's just something I read yesterday. Can you explain this to me?
Yeah, yeah. So, there's a lot in the. You're right. We can talk about. I'd love to talk about Iowa.
Okay.
There's actually an effort right now going on to open the primary system there.
Okay.
But in terms of California, right, what confuses even the national pundits when they talk about it, they're so used to framing everything in this red blue dynamic, right? Is that because we have nonpartisan primaries, it's not anti-partisan. It's everyone participates. It's just agnostic, right? So
Okay.
everybody's on the same ballot. Every voter gets the same ballot. Every candidate's on the same ballot, right? And then
Yeah.
the top 2 vote getters go to the general election. So that means you could have 2 Democrats. You could have 2 Republicans. You could have a libertarian and a green, right? It's party agnostic. That's the fundamental change I was talking about, is where the purpose of every other primary is to elect a leader of those people who show up to a caucus and the party events, right?
Yeah.
California doesn't function that way. It says we don't care about the party, right? We're not, you don't get disadvantaged for being a part of a party. You don't get advantage for being a part of a party. So
Yeah.
in a long field, when you have 10 Democrats and only 2 top ticket Republicans, right? You can understand how the top 2 Republicans could end up as the top 2 vote getters, right?
Yeah.
Now, once you crunch the numbers on the polling stuff, the chances, even when Swalwell was in, of that happening were almost nil. It was a
Right.
great news story, but it's almost nil. But even so, now that Swalwell's out, there's probably going to be a Republican Democrat. But then you say, okay, that's a legitimate limitation of the top 2 nonpartisan primary, right? So
Yes.
you've already seen leadership in this side on the left, because they control most of the processes, saying, see that we could have ended up with a disaster here. Therefore, we should go back and close our primaries, right? Because, make sure we get it done.
Yeah.
What they don't say is that you don't have to do it one of those 2 ways, right? So just like I was saying, you got the left that wouldn't go for it here, that doesn't like it because they're in control, and I'm not bagging on Trump. I think, I'm not a I don't have his flag on the wall, but I'm also like not just everything he does is the worst thing in the world. But he
Right.
just attacked Alaska's primary as a top four primary, right? It's a nonpartisan primary, but they advance four. And then voters get to rank them. This is my first, second, third, fourth, right?
Hmm.
So to win, candidates need to have people vote them second place and third place, right?
Okay.
So why is Trump attacking it? It's not because it's unfair or it's rigged or whatever. It's attacking it because it's more difficult to get the person the leadership wants elected because there's more competition for a broader set of voters, right? So in that
Right.
context, that narrow context, Alaska would tend to be a red state, right? Our argument is all these states aren't red and blue. They're like marginally more Democrat than Republican, right? They just get exacerbated by the process.
Yeah.
So in the case of Alaska, he's frustrated because Murkowski is not a Trump Republican, but he
Right.
can't primary her, right? I don't care what you think about Murkowski or what you care about or think about Trump. The
Yeah.
fact is, Murkowski has broader appeal to voters outside of her party, including independents, right? And that's
Yeah.
why she can get elected under that system. So, my point, bringing it back to California, is
Yeah.
if you say there's an unintended consequence of top two, it wouldn't be to go back to an even worse system where 2% of the voters matter in New Jersey. They cut the better thing to do would be to look north to Alaska and say, wow, Alaska is actually on the leading edge of voting rights, and they actually have a system of representation that
Hmm.
is pretty revolutionary. And that's exactly why they're going after it so hard, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that because I've always thought, okay, I mean, I know a lot of people, they want their opponent to be terrible so that your guy has a or girl has a better chance of winning. But
Yep.
in my mind, I'm like, okay, but if the person I vote for doesn't win, I want the person who does win to be a good candidate. And that's eh, so to me that with Alaska, you could rank them like, okay, well, if I have to choose, like I'd rather have this Democrat over this Democrat, or even though I'd rather have a Republican win, you can
Yeah.
that ranking seems to open that up.
Yeah, and I mean that's the danger of using examples right on certain outcomes because then people go, "Oh, well, you're getting an example because you don't like." I know. I'm just saying, forget about the what you think of the candidate, right? The first elect, right, when Sarah Palin ran, right, she got actually more first place votes, but then you have somebody like a Murkowski, right, that okay, nobody got a majority, and so the Democrat drops off and voted Murkowski higher than Palin, right, and that's what I mean in terms of. So the point isn't to elect somebody that best represents the party,
Uh-huh.
right? The point is to elect somebody that more voters are satisfied with, more
Yeah.
voters preferred, right? And so, yeah, to your point, it's like, and it also going about incentives, right? The incentives right now are for division. It's there's the
Yeah.
incentive of the process is make voters dislike one of the candidates so much that they'll vote for our candidate because they fear the other one, right?
Hmm.
Even right, so even if they don't like our candidate, they're going to fear the other one even more, right?
Yeah.
Under a different systems, and there's different ways to do ranked choice voting, all that stuff. But the point is, like, if there are systems that allow people to have a different incentive structure and have candidates have a different incentive structure where candidates. I know in some places that have ranked choice voting, there's been candidates they go out and they campaign together. They say vote for one of us first and one of us second, and the other
Yeah.
one second, right? If you like blah blah blah. So that's really the types of discussions I think that are happening more these days, and I think will continue, and then you'll see, for lack of better terms, the resistance from both sides of the aisle. If you're in
Yeah.
California, the resistance will come from the left. If you're in Iowa or you're in Texas, it will come from the right for sure. But
Right.
that's why at the end of the day, it's truly a nonpartisan voter, small I independent right,
Yeah.
where it divides both the parties too, right? There's independent minded Republicans, independent minded Democrats, and everywhere in between.
Right. Right. Also, I think that there are people who might not feel safe going to a primary for a particular party, that where if it was all together, it doesn't um it eliminates that, I guess. I don't know if there are problems with people protesting outside of primaries or the
Well, so
caucus.
like our state, we have a lot of mail-in ballot voting and stuff, but right.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, it could be overt, physical, or you could be scared of that, but you could also just be scared of the fact that when you go and you vote in one of the party primaries, it becomes publicly available information, right? Maybe not
Mhm.
to the everyday, but every consultant and everything, people can look up which party you vote in, right? I think that there's a privacy issue, right? That's not
Yeah.
the first thing we talk about, but to your point is the core principle we're talking about at the end of the day is that your right to vote doesn't derive at the moment you join a political party, right?
Right.
It
Right.
derives by being a citizen of the United States, right? So our point was, why do we have structures that literally disenfranchise you from a part of the process because you've chosen not to join a party, right? So
Right.
that's the core argument. And we say, like, that's a legal argument, but the practical consequence of not observing that legal principle is that we have extreme partisanship everywhere throughout the country. And it only perpetuates itself because when an issue that both sides are frustrated with mounts,
Mhm.
the solution isn't to resolve it, it's to do it more on this side and more on this side until on one side you're just a never ending fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and at some point, the politicians completely become disconnected with the people that they're supposed to represent.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
I
just
think there's a lot of truth to that, and I think there's also a lot of truth that there's more people in the system. I always think the representatives, even if you don't agree with them ideologically, most of them are pretty they're trying to do the right thing. That I think voters maybe take out their grievance too much. I don't know, this might sound
Mhm.
like counterintuitive or like I'm being hypocritical, but I believe there's way more representatives that are in office or hanging on to an office or what that actually do want the system to change. It's not good for representation to go, I know the right thing to do. I mean, I sit down with my colleagues from the other side of the aisle. We both agree. We know this is the right thing to do, but I got to run in a primary and I'm going to get
Right.
my head chopped off for doing the right thing because it's easy for my opponent to go and hyperbolize some ideological argument that isn't grounded in reality, right? And so
Right.
the hope I think is that when if there's an opportunity, right, to jump onto, I think there's a lot more people that are ready to jump on that boat. Um, but people aren't going
Yeah.
to jump in the water until the boat's there.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, there is so much information to consume nowadays that I think that if someone who doesn't live in a state that does like ranked choice voting, if someone reads about it, they're not going to know really what it is or how it works because there's just so much stuff to look into.
Right. And then the information's fed by whose perspective it is, right?
Yeah.
The irony on a lot of the Republican stuff is the Republican Party actually uses ranked choice voting in many of its states, right?
Yeah.
Youngkin, the former governor of Virginia,
Mhm.
he was elected in a primary in the party Republican Party's internal processes endorsed him and nominated him through a ranked choice process, right? Like, so
Right.
it's from but the level of misinformation, right, of coming from the political operatives that have their agenda and stuff is a lot. And then I don't blame voters either. It's like, I got kids to take care of, I got to go to
Right.
school, I got to go to work, I got to do all this stuff. I'm going to go and have to study how the nuances of how an election process works. Like, that's not a reasonable expectation for us to have.
Yeah. It, I could see where by doing it that way, you can get more I guess a different variety. It's not your cookie cutter Republican or Democrat. You can maybe get more candidates that are a little bit more in the middle.
So, I mean, that question hits on something that, is exactly right, which frustrates, our independent voter project and stuff. When you see there's so many folks that'll say, look, California's system did nothing because there's just as many Democrats, if not more, than there was before, right? And
Mhm.
our position is, what does that have to do with it? If you go to
Right.
California, if you spend a day in Sacramento and talk to the people around there and say, did California's nonpartisan primary do anything? I guarantee all the people who work in government up there will say, oh, yeah, it did. Because there's, your show's Shades of Jay.
Yeah.
There's many shades of blue that exist among those Democrats only because of the nonpartisan primary, right?
Yeah.
And so whether you call them conservative Democrats or liberal Democrats, right? Like our point is they're Democrats that should represent their district, right? If it's a Democrat district, but it has more conservative tendencies, well, guess what? There's probably, you can label it moderate, more conservative, whatever kind of Democrat you want, but there's certainly big shades of Democrat in California on a
Mhm.
state level that you to a level you don't really see in Washington D.C.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's more visible in the Republican Party right now because they're all fighting with each other so much,
Right.
but
Well, I mean, that same thing's happening in the Democratic Party as
okay.
well, and I don't think it's a coincidence, and it's also a consequence of the system itself, right?
Yeah.
I make the argument, I'll say it again, put it anybody from Democratic Party leader to Republican leader to here there's some folks in some of the special interests that really don't like what we're doing. I will, to my dying day, tell them whether you disagree with me or not, I actually think what I'm saying is good for you, right? I think
Yeah.
the Democratic Party strengthens with a process like this, whether you're a labor or you're a business organization or you're a Republican, everybody gets strengthened by a process like this because competition and inclusion, right, I think make
Yeah.
all of us stronger and make all of us feel vested. Right now, we really have this winner takes all, champion my ideology form of running for office and then governing. That if you're not part of that segment that gets their issues championed for the short term of a of
Yeah.
an election cycle, you're out, right? And it's hard to govern, and it's hard to have, it's hard to have credibility when of people really thinking that you deserve to be their representative.
Right. A big concern with a lot of people, particularly those that don't vote, is they feel that their vote doesn't mean anything. And this directly addresses that issue.
I think so. People go, oh, there's low turnout. Let's just go spend a whole bunch of state money trying to drive turnout and tell students to go out and vote, right? But that doesn't solve the issue that they don't not going. I use an example. Say you're a vegetarian, right?
Mhm.
But I say you can eat dinner as long as it's a hot dog or a hamburger, right?
Yeah.
Try to get that vegetarian to eat dinner all they want. Maybe you cram it down their throats. The only way you're going to get them to eat. That's our
Yeah.
process, right? The Democrats have their process over here. They elect somebody, Republicans over here, and they say, okay, we nominated the hot dog. Oh, we nominated the hamburger. And then we go, why are these vegetarians not coming out to eat? And we're surprised, right? It's,
Right.
it's Put a vegetarian on the ballot. Put a salad on the ballot, right? And I bet you some of them will come out and vote.
Yeah. That's funny. I was a vegetarian for 13 years and I still very much love salads, so I liked that analogy.
Well, I'm a meat eater, but see,
Uh, oh
bet you
yeah,
we could
no.
find with a different process we could find something in
Yeah.
common.
No, I mean, I eat meat now and I eat more I don't know, I'm sounding weird right now. I eat more meat now than I ever did. I don't know what happened. Once I started eating it again, it was like my body was trying to make up for 13 years. Anyways, um, so another thing is again is a lot of people are they think, oh, I'm just voting for the lesser of two evils. So yeah, if you exactly with the hamburger and the hot dog, why even vote? But sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to tell you about my sponsors real quick. Sometimes I get on a roll cleaning or gardening, and I need a boost but don't have time for a meal. Big Fork Brand's pork jerky is the perfect choice to keep my momentum, offering high protein snacks for on the go energy boosts. Not only do they offer pork jerky, but they also make pork sticks, bacon sausage, bacon hot dogs, and burger and hot dog sauces. Products come in a variety of delicious flavors, including Thai green curry and maple and brown sugar for the meat options, and gangster and Chicago fire for the sauces. I personally think the original flavor of the pork jerky hits just right after tackling a big chore. It's a little salty and very flavorful. My discount code gives you 20% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit bigforkbrands.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. Are you looking for a gift for a music lover, or maybe some apparel to show off your quirky side? Old Glory has you covered. With over 300,000 officially licensed items covering music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture, you're guaranteed to find the perfect item. They even have seasonal gear. My husband enjoys the Beatles and Led Zeppelin apparel, and I love the Billy Idol apparel. I even found items for my fellow plant enthusiasts. This family-owned superstore is known for their quality and customer service, offers free standard shipping on all orders, and orders are shipped the same day you purchase. My discount code gives you 15% off your entire order, and it's currently the best deal available. Just visit oldglory.com and enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. Looking for a game-changing way to improve your health? Zevo Life is the world's most nutrient-dense whole plant, packed with over 50% plant protein, essential amino acids, fiber, and antioxidants. Harnessing the best nature has to offer, Zevo Life nourishes your body while driving your performance, vitality, and overall well-being. Each serving is a concentrated source of clean, well-balanced nutrition designed to support modern lifestyles, and just 1 teaspoon a day supports your gut, boosts energy, and promotes healthier skin and hair. It's no wonder that it's receiving rave 5-star reviews. Step into a healthier future with a 30% discount and a 30-day risk-free guarantee by visiting zivo.life and using my promo code. To support my show and to receive 30% off your entire order, enter in my promo code JADE, that's JADE, at checkout. Can you tell me a little bit more about the Independent Voter Project?
Yeah, I mean, it was founded in about 15 years ago by former legislators. Full disclosure, one of them was my father, right, with some of his colleagues. And really, they saw California under its old open primary system, which the Democratic Party took to court. The Republican Party joined them, and they successfully won a lawsuit that closed the primary under the old system.
Mhm.
They created an Independent Voter Project to say, look, this isn't sustainable. It's not good for governance. And they drafted California's top 2 nonpartisan primary, which would survive legal scrutiny, right? And so we got, by a stroke of luck and circumstance and everything, we got it on the ballot. The voters passed it, and now California is one of 3 states with nonpartisan primaries. And so since that time, Independent Voter Projects operated a news website, IVN.us, which covers this kind of stuff going on everywhere from California to Iowa to Maine. And we host conferences with legislative leaders and sponsors, right, where they come together to talk about their issues, but they also learn a little bit about the election reform. We always make sure there's folks from both sides of the aisle at those conferences. And we've passed a few other election reforms. We authored one in San Diego about 6 years or so ago now that made it so that candidates couldn't get elected in a primary when half the people are voting, right? So
Yeah.
we participate in a lot of that stuff, and we're a small but I think passionate crew of folks
Yeah.
that we just believe that there is going to be an opportunity for voters to come together and really fix the system, and we think it is the fix isn't by getting a certain person elected or certainly on one side or the other. It's changing the incentives within our election process to incentivize, good behavior and good governance.
Right. Right. I think now is the perfect time to get that word out. I just think people are more fed up than ever with I mean finding out about the what's going on in Congress and people's personal lives and on
Right.
both sides of the aisle. I think people are just so tired of it. And I've talked to other representatives about like why they're leaving, why there's so many retiring. And aside from like the threats and the hate that they get from the other side, um it's the, I guess, feeling that they can't, that they're just stuck in a bubble. They can't make
Yeah.
a difference. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
I don't speak for all of them, but I can imagine there's just a sense of futility of, you swimming against this ocean of just, constant barrage of stuff that's like noise, right? It's just
Yeah.
noise. It's political theater and this and that, right? And there's not any
Yeah.
real opportunity to like, hey, let's fix this stuff, right? Every single thing is done from the perspective of, oh, how does this get crafted into a political campaign message, right?
Yeah.
Both to trash, to convince people that the other side is set on lighting the whole world on fire, and that our side is, the Lord's Savior, and can't do anything wrong under the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it's so frustrating to watch. Um so where are you the most active? You I know
Well,
you
we're
mentioned you work with other
yeah.
states. And
I mean, we're based in California. We always say we're a California organization. We're not going to go into other places and tell them what to do, but we actually have some folks that are in Iowa who came to us who are opening up the Iowa's primary election process when it comes to state elections. Right? I know we
okay.
have caucuses for presidential and stuff like that, but
Yes.
on the, at least as it involves state elections, to try to open them up and give independent voters an opportunity to at least cast a vote in one of the two primaries. So they approached us, asked for some advice, asked us how to, how do we articulate this stuff? How do we message? Full disclosure, I actually am not IVP. IVP is a client of mine. I do digital
Oh, okay.
communications inside and
Yeah.
outside of politics. But
Okay.
I obviously have a passion for Independent Voter Project, and so it's a large part of both my identity and the work that I do. And
Yeah.
increasingly, there's people like those in Iowa who just found us online or connected us. I forget exactly how they came into contact with us, but they're like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we want to do this. We got this thing drafted. Can you help?" And so in that case, we're happy to play second chair and give people advice. But in terms of, we're not going to be the ones throwing the ball or pushing the direction unless
Yeah.
it's in California, because that's what we know and that's where we live.
Yeah. Would you be able to tell me who that was in Iowa,
Um,
if you know?
well, it's called All Votes Iowa,
Okay.
and if you go to Open My Primary,
Uh,
openmyprimary.org,
okay.
um, you'll see that there's like their website. They also have their organizational website. That's kind of like their lead generation website, and I don't think he'd have a problem with me telling.
Okay.
There's
I
a group
figured.
of them, but one of them's name is Brad Williams,
Okay.
and they're great group of people. They're not like super hyper political and stuff. They're just trying to
Yeah.
do something to improve the process, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I would like to help with that if there's a way to do so. Just
I could
because yeah,
connect
I
you
do
on
caucus.
email if you'd like. And
Oh
just
yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
they're a really great group and been really fun working. They're just expanding their program right now, and right, really, that's their whole agenda is to
Yeah.
give people
Yeah.
more, have more people be able to vote in the primary.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to other states if they wanted to do something like this?
I would say it starts by, you can tell your legislators and your representatives that it's an issue you care about. Most of them aren't going to be able to work within the system to do it because the institutional pressures will stop them. But it's important
Mhm.
that they get involved. Some may be willing to say things publicly, but then just find folks like you just asked me. Oh, there's a group that's doing theirs. Get together and just start organizing and make people aware. Tell your friends, hey, look, we actually can fix this. Every state is different.
Yeah.
They have different rules. Some states have you can do citizen initiatives. Some states you can't. But in any case, there's always a way to just advance the ball, whether through education or awareness. And then finding those folks who are, whether they're business leaders or political leaders, who are are engaged and do want to improve. There's a lot of people in both business and government that are frustrated, just like the rest of us,
Yeah.
who, if they know they have other folks there and there's something to work towards, are willing to do it and willing to, put some of their own time and reputation behind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I I think that this could get more people involved in politics and make them feel like they have, um just gives them a more hands-on opportunity, maybe makes them feel like they have a little bit more, power in their vote.
Well, I hope so. That's the goal. And the
Yeah.
difficulty, though, is because you're not bounded by more like a party or more of a tribe, so to speak, is that
Yeah.
political things happen and it's really easy for whether it's somebody leading an organization or it's just a groups within the organization to split themselves because of the very partisan issues that they're trying to fight, right?
Yeah.
I've seen it a lot where it's a group that starts out to do this and then a couple of years later it becomes kind of like a group of Democrats or Republicans, um, because of the way the political system really starts pushing people and dividing people, and
Yeah.
that's why it takes so long. It's very hard. I think the more people who are interested in politics on the periphery, right,
Mhm.
get involved, that's what's going to really catalyze it, right? Because
Yeah.
the people like me who wake up thinking about politics and are watching what's going on all the time are too uh, vested in the current status of the system. You need people on the outside have a very long term perspective and treat the noise as it should be treated. It's noise,
Yeah.
right? Whether
Yeah.
it's something about Trump or Swalwell or whatever,
Yeah.
like to me, I've just gotten to a place where like that stuff's just noise. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yes.
I can't control what's going to happen tomorrow or who's going to do what tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right?
In a lot of it, I it doesn't really affect anything. Like, Trump keeps getting in hot water for posting memes and stuff like that, and it's like, "Okay, so it's offensive. What did it do to you? Did it do anything to you? Did it affect geopolitics in any way, shape, or form that he posted this? Just get over it. Like, why are you
Well,
so."
I probably will get in trouble just by saying my hair does not get caught on fire all the time. And like, but that also doesn't mean I think that's what a president should be doing.
Of course. Of
But
course.
that, right. But like to your point, it's like, you know what? That's who he is. And you know what? He got elected. And what kind of system did we create that kind of behavior gets elected? And right. Maybe he's the bull in the china shop that should
Yes.
say, wake up, you know?
Yeah. Yes, well, and yeah, it's not like he changed.
Yeah,
He's
I mean, he is who he is. You got to give him that, right?
yeah,
He's
that's
the same guy, so
yeah.
you got to give him that. And
Yep.
that's and really that's the authenticity you don't really see anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's like some people, you may not like that authenticity or like maybe like whatever, but to your point, it's like that's the only vegetarian meal on the kit, right? It's like,
Yeah.
show me
Yeah.
an authentic alternative, and maybe I will. But what I don't like is this poll tested dribble where I don't
Mhm.
even know who's talking to me. It's some candidate went to their consultant, told them what they should say, and then they're coming and just spewing a bunch of nonsense, right? That they don't even believe.
Yeah.
And so, that's the world we live in, right? But I think
Yeah.
fortunately there are a lot more people that have something to say that are willing to be authentic if we just provide a pathway to do it.
Right. Right. Yeah. I'm trying to imagine how much this could change things if more states adopted these practices. Um, you know, there's a lot of third party people out there that that yeah, they'd be
Yeah,
maybe
they're
be able
third
to say
party
more.
or they're agnostic or they're within the parties right now and frustrated, right?
Yeah.
And that's the
Yeah.
point of that. It's competition. I think the bright, the ray of optimism, right, is that the last time we had a lot of these big election reforms was the turn of the great progressive era, right, which
Yeah.
is not the same as the progressive terminology we use now, but that's when primaries first came into the public sphere, where we didn't have a nomination process. We had it; it was all private, right? You think
Mhm.
it was even more private than caucuses. It was like literally the leadership of the parties, in the smoke-filled rooms, deciding that this was going to be the candidate, right? And
Yeah.
so they brought in primaries in a couple states at the turn of the previous century, and almost overnight, the rest of the country started adopting them, right?
Yeah.
So when change happens, it can happen fast. And, I like to think we're at an inflection point where,
Yeah.
we can get some things passed. Unfortunately, there's been some setbacks in the reform space the last couple election cycles, but I think there's opportunity now. And I think there's a lot to your point. I think there's a lot more people stepping back and going, this is a systemic problem. It's not one of the two parties, right?
Yeah. Yes. And it you know, so two quick things is for me to be able to absorb all of this information on politics every day. I think of it as a game, and I'm a competitive person, and I think that to a lot of these politicians it is a game. You're playing your role, and you've whoever plays their role best wins. But it's sad to think that our country is like that. But I do think, as we've just been discussing, that people are tired of the game. And I do wonder if that's what's causing a lot of these influencers to kind of go off the rails now. Like, are
Uh-huh.
they realizing that people don't agree with everything they say? They're kind of turning their listeners away. Do you think that has something to do with it?
I don't know, and maybe each one has their own circumstances and stuff, but like I think
Mhm.
the certainly part of it is like finding your niche, right? Is like, hey, where's the people that will agree with this thing, and I'm the only one willing to say that, right? And so
Yeah.
that's the only place they can find it. Maybe they don't even agree; they just like, wow, somebody will say that or take that
Yeah.
position. I don't know, but I do think that like I said, there's the incentives are to have more tribal, right? Tribal type views of the world. And as it translates into political power, right? So if you have
Yeah.
your tribe and you can utilize that tribe for political influence because it comes with this many votes and that many dollars, then that's effective. So what essentially what we're trying to do is realign the incentive to
Yeah.
say, look, these tribes that are like kind of out there and not that many people, relatively speaking, agree or
Mhm.
can understand what the heck they're saying,
Yeah.
have less influence, not more influence.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like the audience to know?
Um, I think that there's other people out there. There's a lot of folks out there, and you don't have to be pushing for a reform. Like you don't have to be an independent voter, especially if you're engaged in the system. I
Mhm.
mean, the folks that are really really needed right now are the folks that are already in the Democratic Party, in the Republican Party, and can help from within convince enough people to say, look, this is not a sustainable path we're on. We need the opening up the process is actually good for us. That's how
Yeah.
we open our tent, and that's how we become stronger, whether you're Republican or Democrat. So I just say learn more. Visit at ivn.us if you want to know what's going on in the space, and look around and find organizations like All Votes Count Iowa,
Uh-huh.
and reach out to them and say, how can I get involved?
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, and can you tell us a little bit more about IVN.us? Like
Yeah,
what you can find on there?
IVN.us, so the Independent Voter News. It's a publication of, by Independent Voter Project and its sister C3 organization, and
Okay.
we have a simple etiquette. It's, we always say we've been called liberals, conservatives, anarchists, and every pejorative you've heard, as
Yeah.
well. And we say we're all of that, right? We're multi biased. Like we're just say what you think, and if you don't agree with something, then write your own story. And that's
Yeah.
kind of been our ethic. But at its core, what we focus on is, look, there's a reform effort going on in Iowa. Alaska passed a very revolutionary thing here.
Mhm.
How did New York end up with ranked choice voting, but only in closed primaries? Things like that
Yeah.
us will wake up thinking about. We're probably covering it.
Awesome. I will be sure to put the link to both of those websites in the show notes. But
Great,
I'll keep in touch with you, and
great,
yeah, and I will find you on
and
social media and stuff too, so I can tag you and all that.
perfect. I wish I was more active, but I'm not as active as I should be. But
Yeah.
I appreciate it very much, and also I can connect you with the folks from Iowa.
Oh, perfect. I'd love that. So,
Yeah,
all
awesome.
right.
Thank you
Yes.
for your time, and appreciate you having me.
Yep. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, reach out anytime.
Will do.